Hey guys, Paul Wilson here with Hooked on Diesel. Glad to be back at it. Today we have a special guest on, JT Bowden. JT, how the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. I'm doing excellent. I see you got some DHD gear on there. Hell yeah, way to
Yes, sir.
represent.
Yes,
Hooked on
sir.
Diesel, of course, sponsored by Dirty Hooker Diesel. That's where I work full time. Obviously, JT and I are both fans of the shop and the apparel and everything else that we have going on over there. But hey, today we are here to talk a little bit about you and kind of your experience in the diesel performance community. Why don't you get us started at the beginning? How'd you get started around diesel?
So I got started around diesel in the farming industry, and then that area, and then also in the sled pulling scene in like St. Charles County Fair in Missouri, and it just pretty much escalated from there. And then I was doing or turning wrenches on diesels at the age of 15. And then I kind of stopped and went to the oil field, and now I'm doing that. But at the same time, I still help at a shop called Baker Diesel Performance out of Conroe, Texas. And we still do a lot of fun things there. I also have a race truck now too, but that truck's been with me since 2017, and it's escalated from there and went from small to something big now. And then we have another shop truck in the shop that's going to be a UCC competition truck that we're building.
Hell
So
yeah. That's a pretty quick escalation, JT. That's we see this a lot though, right? Like,
yeah.
I got
Yep.
started, man. Midwest sled pulling, it really pulls guys in. There's something about being out here in the corn and the beans and hooking to a sled at a county fair, and it's just it drives so many of us to make such bad financial decisions in the future, and I love that.
Oh,
Um,
it definitely does.
tell me about sled pulling. How'd you get started in sled pulling? Was it your buddies who pulled you in? Was it a lot of competition? How did it feel?
So I was watching it, and then I had a couple buddies get into it, and one was one was on an accident. He was doing a work stock, and I was sitting there. I was like, "Hey, you want to make sure your truck's in full drive or your hubs are locked on your old 97.73, or I think it was a 97 or 96." And he's sitting there. He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, all right, well, I made sure one hub was locked and the other one I accidentally unlocked. And
Oh
he was
no.
sitting there, he was sitting there, and I was sitting there, I was watching, and he's sitting there, and he's about to start making a pull, and he realized that was three tires spinning, not four. And he gets out of his truck, and or they reset him. He got out of his truck and double checked his hub. He's like, hey, man, you messed up. I'm like, damn it. So it it escalated from there, and then I had a buddy in high school. He had a truck that he bought that was another. It was a I think I don't remember what that truck was, but it was a insane build of a truck, and he bought it, and it had a 12 valve in it, and it had a lot of fuel and a lot of air, and he he ended up sled pulling it too. That truck used to be a sled pull truck, and then he ended up start doing it right after high school or after he graduated in Missouri, and then. I I was sitting there and I moved from Missouri down to Texas in 2017, July 1st to 7, or not July 1st, it was January 1st of 2017. And it, I went to, I was already wrenching on diesels at that time, and I was working on semi trucks before I went down here or doing maintenance on semi trucks at Rush Truck Centers in Missouri. And what happened is I left Missouri, came down here, and then I went to UTI to get an education because everybody down here wanted an education of some sort for you to work on trucks. I was like, I guess I gotta go do it.
Sure.
So I did it, and my buddies they were all into diesel racing at the time. I had a buddy named Travis, and then I had a couple other buddies that were into it, and they all had Duramaxes, and there was one Duramax there. His name is Peyton Morgan from Zero Tolerance Diesel in Brookshire, and he had a tan extended cab short bed Duramax, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. How much power it made, and we went and made some street hits on in Mexico, and I was sitting there, I was like, I was hooked. I just couldn't get enough, and then my buddy Travis told me about NHRDA in 2017, so we went, or it was the end of 17, and he told me about it, and I took off work to go to the opener in April, I think it was, or something like that. And that's just really where it really got into it for diesel racing wise. Like I just started seeing all these trucks racing down the track, like old competition people that don't even exist anymore, like the old Buck or Save the Rack truck, the black one. I can't remember her name, but that truck was sick, and I thought that thing was cool to do in 11 seconds in a quarter mile because whoever would see a diesel doing that in the quarter mile, and I was like, that's cool. I was like, yeah, I would have never thought that was existence, and then I was sitting there, I was like, I had to get into it. It just started from there.
It's crazy how little it takes, right? You see a couple of these cool trucks, a couple of these like iconic moments in your life of seeing somebody do something that's totally unexpected, right? Of like
Yeah.
being able, I also remember like the first time I saw a really fast truck at the track, I was like, oh, holy shit. I thought these things were just to tow the cars here. Like, what do you mean? These trucks can also be fast, and that kind of mind blowingness. I love when it sucks somebody in, and it sounds like it said it hooks in deep with you. So you went down to Texas to go work in the oil fields. I know that's a life changing career, right? That's you now
Oh yeah.
live that lifestyle. That's
Hmm.
just is what it is. Um, how long after you were in Texas that you started getting back around the diesel scene?
I so I kept in it, and I just really got further and further in it. In about 2020, when COVID hit, we had a downturn, and I was laid off for a little bit. So I was just doing what everybody else would do, is just live a little bit on the payments and whatnot. And I got the my first truck, which was or not, it would be technically my second diesel I ever owned, which is my '07 Dodge 2500. That's silver now. Yeah, or it's been silver since I bought it in Arlington. I bought it with 144,000 miles at the time for $20,000, which I thought that was the best deal ever. And my buddies were sitting there like, "Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" And I was like, I really don't want to turn my daily driver into this, but okay. So I put 60% over injectors and then a 10 mil pump and a 467.7, and then I put a Suncoast internally built transmission in it, and then it escalated from there. And then I was like, cool. And then like in 2020, I lowered it and I went to the track, and that was like the first time I ever went down the track, and that was Texas Truck Jam at the time because the NHRDA was down and they were out for a little while. So I went to that, and then I did in first round of eliminations in 770 index. I did it was a 7.845 and we did both sides of the track. I caught back up with him and everything. I can send you the time slip to post somewhere in the video or something, but it was I thought that was the most accomplished thing I ever did because you don't ever see anybody do that on the track being at the same time. The only thing was different was the reaction time, just about. And I was just hooked ever since. And then the transmission went out in 22 on that truck, and then I was daily driving that truck basically at the time. So I bought a some Jeep at the Jeep dealership, and then I ended up building that truck to what it is now. It's got one of our stage two engines that basically in it. It's a 6.4 D-stroke basically. It's actually technically a 6.5 since it's a 20 overbore. But it's got the .80 longer Corilla rods with upgraded bushings from MPA. It's got a 14 mil girdle, 5.9 crank, ported head, 300% overflux injectors with a single 14 millimeter extra G pump. It's got extra G sensors on it and everything else. And we took it out in 2023 and we realized it was run too fast. And we're like, we need to put a roll bar in it because we were trying to do 770. We didn't have enough time to put a roll bar in it. And that was at UCC, and we're trying to just keep detuning it. And it just kept going, doing something wild. And I was like, all right. So we went to NHRDA in September 23, and it was the World Finals in September, October, I think at the time. And they were sitting there and they're like, do you have this and this? I was like, yeah, I got the drive shaft loop in and it's actually in my back seat. It's not even on the truck I was sitting there. I was like used to everybody else doing 770 index with no roll or drive shaft loop. But honestly, I think most trucks should have a drive shaft loop in it, even if you're trying to go down the track. But we ended up racing, and I kept going too fast there too. I did like 7.4, 7.2, and with a really small turbo set up on that truck with a lot of fuel. And we're like, we went back to the drawing board, put a standalone harness in it, roll bar, and then it just escalated. That truck is something else now, but we're planning to turn it more back into a street truck next year. So it has AC and heat back in it and everything, but it's still gonna have the roll bar, and we're gonna do 670 with compounds instead of a single turbo. I think
Okay.
it'll work out a little bit better.
That's awesome. I love that you're like, oh, it went a little too far. It has a standalone ECU in it. Yeah, you went too far. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
clearly that's over the line of reasonable. I think we can all agree to that. Yeah.
Yep.
What's your
So,
fastest time in that truck?
um, I let I was originally racing at UCC this year, and then I let Matt take over for the weekend and made sure he had everything taken care of on the paperwork side of things. And we were doing 655 on the brake. We picked
There
up
you go.
power with the hot shots fuel that we actually came up to UCC. We thought we fixed the fuel cell issue with the water seepage issue with the rain, and come to find out the fuel cell's like bent in the center, so water just sits there. We're like, well,
Oh
that's just
no.
wonderful. So I messaged. I was sitting there at UCC. I was like, what are we gonna do? Like, Matt's like, we're just gonna drain the fuel and put some fuel in it. I was like, why not try the hot shots fuel to see what, because we're a dealer for hot shots. And he's like, yeah, let's try to message Kyle. And Kyle's like, yeah, I got some fuel over here. And he helped us out all weekend with fuel. I ran 5 gallons Friday, 5 gallons Saturday. I think I ran a total of 15 gallons of fuel. We ran out of fuel on the track on our last pass doing 673. And that's what got us into qualifying for 670 index.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What a run.
Yeah, we ran out of fuel at the end of the track on 5 gallons of fuel. We didn't really monitor the fuel. We just thought it was doing fine all day because
Sure,
we didn't think
sure.
it was going to do much at the lanes, but apparently it does. So, but that truck, that hot shot fuel, we have to get. Lavon's supposed to send me some stuff for the trucks down by the fire punk on that side of things. But Levon's supposed to send me the US and everything on the truck, and then Kyle wants me to take pictures of all the time slips all together. And we think we picked up more than what they originally thought it was going to pick up on a track.
Really?
Yeah. We're trying to get the statistics all said and done, and they can come out with all that hopefully soon because it picked up a lot of power. Like it was more than, because last year I was doing 670 like on the dot pretty much. And then we come back up this year and we were running R82 last year with like 15 gallons of fuel. We ran the same limit or whatever they suggest with the R82. And
Yeah.
we're doing perfect 670s last year on the same tune up. And all we did is change the fuel and got rid of the wastegate this year, and it just picked up power out of nowhere. And the wastegate, it opened correctly. Like we were able to make more power last year, but like it wasn't going to be much because that wastegate wasn't opening. It was just cracking open. It wasn't even much boost going by it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Wow, what a run, man. What a good time at UCC. You're one of the few guys who had 3 days of things getting better. That's not common,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I was,
Now, oh, go ahead.
I was helping. So I was helping Matt race. I was helping also Lewis Carter and Kyle Bastos, and I helped a little bit with other guys too. And I was telling them, hey, if we can get it on the stickier side of the track, you ain't gonna have any more issues because it seemed like after ET went, they just sprayed the starting line, but that wasn't really good enough. I was like, get it really on that sticky side, and we got trucks to hook going down the track, and it was pretty good for all those guys. Even I was, I'm more of like one of those people that try to help anybody that I can type thing at
That's
the track
good.
if I can. But those guys did really good, and we were sitting there. I was like, man, if only they could do a better prep for the like super truck or super diesel guys and all them guys, because I would love to see those trucks do what they were trying to do for
Yeah.
that weekend.
Yeah, I will say that after talking to quite a few competitors, that's I think definitely an area of improvement. You know, an opportunity for improvement for the staff there is making sure that that track gets a lot of extra attention of seeing it get prepped. Now we have seen it in years past where it's real sticky, like some guys would say too sticky, and then you get to a year like this and it's like, hey, it wasn't enough. We've had other years where it was cold and the people couldn't hook and so we've kind of seen it all. I mean, that's one thing that UCC is for sure on is whatever you remember from the previous years, the track won't be that this year. So it'll always be something new. But I know you had mentioned earlier on here that you are getting ready, you're building a UCC truck. So you're planning on competing yourself next year. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, sir. It's
Talk to me about it.
another
Why make such a horrible financial decision?
um the truck kind of fell into my lap more than anything. It was a friend of mine or we made friends after I bought the truck. Or it was actually a half and half deal. It wasn't even fully my purchase, but it's a '07 Dodge Ram 2500, and everybody probably knows it by Logan Epling's old blue truck. And that's the truck that I'm going to use for UCC next year, but it's not going to look the same at all. It's going to be
Okay.
complete. The four link's getting redone. The front's going to have a wishbone. The back's going to have a wishbone. It's going to have a Chaos fabrication block in it, and it's going to be the first common rail 24 valve block from Chaos. Like they never done a common rail with that block yet, and they never done 24 valve as far as I know with it yet.
Okay.
And the block is going to be a 4.40 bore. It's going to put me at a 7.3 liter in displacement, and it's going to be something crazy. Like this thing is going to make a lot of power, I think, because the head's going to be completely custom. I don't know if I can mention too much about it, but it's a head that's going to be a lot different than what you would see on the Cummins market for heads.
Okay.
And it's going to be able to work with the 440 bore. And the head will outflow anything that's on the market right now, even billet heads as well. It's a billet head, but it's completely custom billet head.
So this is I'll say all unique stuff, all new things that you're talking about pushing the limits with here. Very common for UCC plans to involve absolute insanity, pushing the
Yeah.
envelope, doing things that nobody's done before, trying something that's totally new. I love the idea. How now you're going to huge level of displacement. You said 7.3 liters is
Yep.
what you're measuring? Okay.
And for example, the Executioner is a 7.0 in displacement. So I'll have zero point 0.3 more liters than the Executioner on this
Yeah.
block
Yeah,
and a
which is
lot bigger bore.
nuts. Absolutely
Yeah.
nuts. And then what are you thinking as far as versatility? Are you thinking you're going to show up with and do the whole swap over turbos every night? You're going to run a single on the drag race and triples on the dyno, and then a big twin kit out to sled pulling or something of that sorts.
So we're planning to run a big single on the drag strip because I really do not want to run the compound setup on the drag strip because I think that would be a little too scary. And I
Yeah.
don't think anybody's ever done that big of a setup of turbos on a drag strip. And we're planning to run in the beginning because me and Matt are planning on swapping drivers in between on that. And
Okay.
we'll do between our goal for the truck is to hit fours eventually. But like we have to get into it because the fastest I've been in a vehicle is fives or 550s in the eighth in a car. It was a Corvette. And I was sitting there, I was like, I never done it in full drive with this much torque and power on my truck.
Sure.
So we have to get our licensing. We're trying to have the truck running by February is the goal.
Okay.
So that's the main goal right now. And then it's going to have Rosler Turbo 400 like everybody would want, and then SCS transfer case and all that. And I got all sorts of people helping me with this thing. And then it's going to have a 25 6 cage in it because you have to do it with the amount of power that this thing's got.
Sure.
And um, it's a little bit heavier of a block. I know a lot of people give me crap about it, but it's 425 pounds is what I was told. And I was sitting there, I was like, a factory 6.7 blocks, 425, 426, and a deck plate and everything, you're pretty much almost about the same weight or so in the front.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there, I was like, I'll adjust for the weight. I'll figure out where I need to move weight around because we're trying to make this thing hook and go. We
Right.
ain't trying to, we're trying to be able to do all three events with this truck the right way. The dyno, everybody's got the 4,000 horsepower smack, but, or wants to do that 4,000 horse smack. And I know truck or that engine will have enough fuel and air for it, but I don't think we're going to try to go right for it, to be honest with you, as much money is in that block because it's all testing stuff as well. And injectors have never been ran on the market yet and all this and that as well.
I'll say as far as plans like that goes, that's UCC has this kind of fickle fate to it of it depends on what happens. It usually will push people's decision one way or the other. If you end up going last on the dyno and you're looking at the points from drag racing and you're looking at the points people are accumulating from the dyno, sometimes all of those factors can come together to make you make horrible future decisions. Great decisions for the show, competitive decisions, but not good decisions, right? Like a lot of times
Yeah.
that's where we find people all of a sudden out of nowhere pushing themselves, hitting the extra jet, hitting the extra juice. And that's when they'll blow through and they'll hit that 3,000 number. So it's getting to be that if you're not above 26, 2,700 horsepower, why are you on the dyno? Right? If your truck's at least not capable of it, you might run into some technical issues. Something might go wrong. You might not be able to make that power, but you have to go in knowing that your truck is capable of it. Otherwise, why you're there, right? That is the
Hmm.
level of competition anymore. So so then it'll all come down to the sled pull. Now you
Yeah.
have sled pull routes. When's the last time you were out playing in the dirt?
It's been years. It's 2015, 2016 since the last I seen one, or since I've been in even near one or helped with
That's a
somebody on one.
decade. That's
Yeah.
10 years, my man. That's
So
a
we,
child ago. Yeah. That's
yeah, yeah,
all right. All right. So you're gonna get some sled pull practice here between now and then, I take it. Get back out into the dirt and kick it around once or twice.
yeah. We're gonna try to go to one of the sled pull events and see if they'll let us just do an open pull or something like that, where we know what the truck can do. Because our goal is to have everything tested before UCC. If we need to make a change, we need to make a change.
Sure. Sure.
Because I think more of the testing that you can do before UCC, the better. Because we're planning, so Robert Ivy's got a Superflow dyno in Texas here. And I asked him how much he would let us use it for, and he gave me a reasonable price to rent it out for the day. And I
Okay.
think that'll be the first best test to see what this thing can do on the dyno with the turbo setup because the turbo setup is just huge. It's compounds, but it's huge. It's not anything I've seen anybody do yet.
Okay. All right. I'm excited.
So,
This sounds like a fun truck. This sounds like a fun build. Have
yeah.
you started kicking around names for it yet?
The name is Stripper Glitter.
Stripper
Because
glitter. Okay. I love it.
the reason being is because it's going to be silver and it's going to have a lot of sparkle.
Yeah.
It's and then it's gonna have some bling of wheels on it too for they're lightweight wheel, but they're a wheel that nobody else has ran yet on a diesel. And they can do 8 by 6.5 and 15s. So that's what I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna do a 28.5 inch tire like all these super diesel guys are doing. And
Sure.
like Ziegler and Paul Cato and all them. So I'm gonna run a pretty good tire. I'm gonna lower the gear ratio like everybody told me to do and everything else, and we're gonna have fun. We're gonna see what this truck can do next year for sure, and we're gonna try to break some records, but we'll see.
Now, if people are hearing this, they're excited, they want to follow along and they want to stay up with your progress, they want to see what's going on in JT's world. What's the best way for people to follow you?
Either you guys can find me on Facebook on my personal profile to see because it's more likely we're gonna post sneak peeks on like our page on our Baker Diesel Performance page, but most likely I'll post some snapshots on like my TikTok Pro Street Diesels and then Instagram I have Pro Street Diesels on there and then Facebook I got it on there too. So we might do some snapshots and sneak peeks of everything going on. Um, I'm planning to do a professional video of us talking about the truck and everything and how everything's gonna look at the end of year, hopefully. Maybe see if you want to get back on the podcast and we can even talk more about it with some
Yeah, of
pictures and
course.
stuff.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely. All right, and then is there anybody you would like to give a shout out to? Who's been a big help for you along the way?
I would definitely like to give a shout out to Levon from Firepunk. I would like to give a shout out to Pace from Fleece because they're helping us out too with some of the things I need for the engine. And then I'd like to give a shout out to who else would be Kevin from Chaos. I mean, he's been great to work with on trying to get this block ready. We were originally going to go a bigger bore, but he saw something that we couldn't really do with the 24 valve on like a 12 valve where you could.
Yeah.
But and then the guy that's making the head, I'd like to give him a shout out too. But I don't know how much I can mention about him because it's kind of a top secret thing on the head side of things. So
Look at me having reservation, not even pushing you hard, trying to pry in to find out more details about it. We're going to let it sit. We're going to let it be a surprise. And when it's out there in public, I'd like you to come back on the show and we'll talk more about it. Okay.
yeah, yep. I should
Excellent.
have I should have the head hopefully by August. Is the goal. We're trying to have the engine running in September on jack stands or something like that in the truck is the goal, or September, November, somewhere in there. And then
Sure.
we'll get everything else buttoned up, the four link, because I'd like to have the engine and transmission sitting in the truck and then do the suspension work so I can actually have everything to the weight of the truck and try to move everything around where like pretty much like somebody would do with like a pro mod or something like that. We're trying to do this the right way and get
Sure.
our right angles and everything. So
I love it. I think you guys got a good plan. I'm excited to see you execute on it. Guys, make sure you give JT a follow. Check out Baker Diesel Performance. And of course, stay subscribed to Hooked on Diesel podcast and the Dirty Hooker Diesel YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks again, JT.
thanks for having me, Paul.